budgets that we have proposed for 2022, and this is excluding the TIF and the enterprise funds, but the TIF and the enterprise funds are in your budget book, as well as we're going to go through the enterprise funds in a little bit here. The general fund, we have revenue and expense neutral, $10,667,000, and we are projecting 2022 fund balance, but understanding 2021 still hasn't been audited yet, so these are projected and are subject to change at some if that we don't meet our budgets. Park dedication, we have revenues of $536,967 and a $500,000 expenditure, with a increase in fund balance of $36,967. And that we will explain later how we came up with that revenue source. Surface water, $502,192, with expenditures of $611,955, having a decrease in fund balance of $109,763. Drug forfeiture, a revenue and expense neutral of $20,000. Pavement improvement streets, revenues of $1.362 mil, as well as expenditures $1,460,250, decreasing the fund balance $98,250. Street bond, we have revenue sources in our fund balance in that account from the proceeds that we had received a few years back, and we're spending that down by the last $1 million. EDA fund, revenue source coming in at $150,500, with expenditures at $158,647, decreasing that fund balance by $8,147. And the airport fund, we have revenue of $102,702 and expenditures of $102,019, have a slight increase in the fund balance of $683. Capital equipment, and like I said, we will explain how we came up with that revenue source as well. $2,573,820, with expenditures of $1,293,311, increasing that fund balance to $1,280,509. And that capital equipment is coming from, and we're anticipating to have the bond certificates coming in place for next year, so we're bringing that revenue source in. And the park dedication fees, we did do a levy decrease in the capital equipment and increase the levy in the park dedication fund for that swap that we had talked about at previous meetings. And the next slide is the debt service funds. These are the funds that we pay our bond payment and interest payments with. And the debt service tax abatement, we have revenues of $600,080, expenditures of $596,155, increasing that fund balance by $3,925. Debt service for roads, $314,750, expenditures of $309,000, increasing that fund balance by $5,750. Debt service EDA funding, $1,415,850, with expenditures of $1,395,725, increasing that fund balance by $20,125. And the fund balances that we have remaining is meant to be for that last payment at the end of the note or the bond. And the enterprise funds, and understanding that the debt service for enterprise funds are funded by the enterprise funds, and they're not included in the debt service. So anything that has to do with paying debt service is paid out of these funds for these projects. The water fund, we have revenues of $2,855,592, expenditures of $2,640,489, increasing that fund balance by $215,103. The sewer fund, we have revenues of $5,311,892, Expenditures of $8,342,355, which we included as a placeholder of the expenditures for the projects in that account. Understanding that there's going to be accounting entries coming in to bring any bond money or anything to that revenue source. And decreasing that fund balance of $3,030,463. And I decided to break down a few of these budgets and to give an idea of where some of that revenue source comes from. And again, this excludes the TIF and the bond projects as well as the enterprise funds, just to give a more of a comparison for comparison purposes. And I broke out three of them in particular: the general levy, the debt service, and the bonding, the bond certificates, to show that that's really a lot of that pie has to do with those three funding sources. With the general levy at 52.06, and the certificates at 10.96, and the debt service at 15.24. And I'll let you look at the others as far as the pieces of the other revenue that is color-coded to what they are. Expenditure budgets is another graph that I wanted to break out just to create more of an understanding of what's in the budget. And this is by the function, and basically this is by the different kinds of departments that we have in different areas. And again, I broke out the biggest one at 62.8 being the operational general fund. And at 13%, that's the debt service fund. Them two comprise of most of the budgets in total. And again, like I said, I'll have you look at what the other budgets are as far as what the percentage of the total is based on the color coding. And I broke it down even further to have it be a little bit more granular to create an understanding what's in the general operation fund, in the expenditure budgets, and I did it by function, meaning the different departments within the general fund. And I pulled out three of them just to show what the majority of the budgets consist of. And it's basically public safety. If you look at police, it's 44.11. Fire, 7.05, and other public safety at 4.57. The next largest being public works at 13.14, and general government building at 11.73. It does include insurance for all of that. We pull that into finance versus distributing amongst the departments, just to make it more easier to manage. And it could really raise that to a more of a percentage because of that piece of it. And 8.17 is the Parks and Rec, but we did add expenditures for some of those projects, and hopefully that will help that piece of it as well. So the others I will let you take a look at, and if you have any questions, let me know. The tax levy summary is the next worksheet, and this basically gives a percentage of change from 2021 to 2022 of what the levy is in the different areas. In the general fund, there was a $581,281 change, coming to a 7.16%. Capital equipment, again, we changed that levy and decreased that levy to help the parks and trails, and that decreased by $350,000 or 43.75%. The capital pavement improvement increased by $100,000. The debt service decreased slightly by $380,000 or $380. The EDA increased by $100,000. Parks and trails increased by the $400,000, which was redirected from the capital equipment. And the next slide, we're going to look through some sample home tax impacts. And this is an estimate at this point based on what is available in Washington County, but I anticipate that it's going to be pretty close, and normally it is pretty close at this point in time in the year. So just looking through, I'm gonna go through a few of these, looking at a $200,000 home last year, and we're assuming that 2.6% change in market value. So whatever the market value was with that 2.6% change last year, we're comparing it to this year. So that 200,000 last year was 712,000 or $712.03, and this year it's $739.89. And this does not include any increases in assessed value that someone may be experiencing, so it's assuming the same assessed value. And with a $300,000 home, last year at 2021 it was $1,144.04, and this year for 2022 it's going to be $1,185.95. So this is just examples at this point of different home market values to give a feel for what kind of changes are going to occur. And the next slide is kind of giving a percentage of where does that levy go. And the general fund is 70.8% of that. And this is where most of the city's budgets are. This is most of what the labor is, the materials, and all that we need to run the city and provide services. Capital equipment is at 3.7%. And starting in 2022, the city will be funding a piece of the capital equipment with the bonding certificates. A long-term funding mechanism that addresses the need to replace major pieces of equipment is what this consists of, which is fire trucks, squad cars, snow plows, street sweepers, and all the other construction equipment that is needed to run the city. Parks and trails amounts to 3.7%, and this is to fund the city's parks and trails enhancements and maintenance. Capital paving improvement is 1.6%, and this is to fund the street paving and repairs. It's also funded with the state shared revenue and franchise fees, as well as the bonding was for a few years back. Debt service was 19%. And this is the fund where the city budgets for the repayment of the general obligation payments, and as well as the interest. Economic Development Fund is 1.2%, and this is used to fund the economic development initiatives. And this is a graph that we've been kind of tallying over the years as far as what that levy increase history has been, and looking at where we're at this point in time. I think the dates might be a little bit off, but at 7.26, there's with the exception of the 2.6, it's been pretty stable from where we've been. And the history of the tax rate is another one that we compare over the last 10 years or so. And looking at these last few years, it's remained pretty stable. And there's this fiscal disparity that comes into play for a reduction for the taxes, and our fiscal disparity did go up, which helps our taxpayers. So that helped us out for the estimate for 2022. And with that, that's all I have, unless there's any questions for us.
Thank you, Sandy. Council, any questions for Sandy or Patrick? I know this has been a topic of many workshop discussions to get us to this point this evening, so understand if there's not any questions.
I don't have questions, just thank you for breaking the down the pie charts. That's really helpful and a good visual for folks to see. Thank you.
The only comment I have is that the 2.6% value increase, I think, might be a little bit low.
For the on the analysis?
Right, yeah, so.
Do you have an estimate of what the average value, what the average rate change was? Is that something that the county provides?
See, that's where I got the information, was from the county.
Oh,
And at this point, they estimated as such. Last year, I think it was like a 5% or something, and then this year they brought it down to the 2.6. So that's where I get the information from. But it's an estimate.
I'm just guessing because of what's been going on with the real estate market,
Yeah, yeah.
so,
And they could be more
We'll see.
conservative too.
yeah.
Certainly a lot of discussion and certainly examples where it's much higher than that, so, yeah. Any other questions?
Well,
That is our next step. That is our next step. Yep. So with that, maybe let's move into the public hearing portion, and then we can follow up with any other questions that council might have. Thank you, Sandy.
Do you want me to leave this up, or?
It'd be helpful, yeah. With that, let's move into our truth and taxation hearing, and I'd like to open up the hearing this evening, and the opportunity for any interested parties to provide comment. Sandy, do we have a sign-in sheet for tonight's hearing? Sandy? Or, I'm sorry, Karen?
Karen,
I'm sorry.
change
Karen.
my name for me as I speak.
And if you have comment, I welcome you to come to the podium. You want to come to the podium right here?
Okay, so-
Go ahead to the podium.
Welcome. We're glad you're here.
My name is Gene Ellis, and I'm a taxpayer, of course, and I'm at 9284 Jewel Lane North in Forest Lake. And I got the proposed tax sheet here, and so I did some homework on it and found out, I actually talked to the tax assessor's office in Washington County, and I got some, the reason I'm here is because I'm showing what, from the taxes you proposed, that you're proposing the property values to go up 11% in 1 year. That's what you've got going right now. And what's weird about that is the information I got from the tax assessor's office is that in 2017, the properties increased 7.45%. In 2018, they went up 7.46. In 2019, they went up 3.93. 2020, 1.19. 2021, 3.58. So I can't figure out for the life of me how you came up with an 11% increase when we've never had one.
So and your question is about your property value?
Exactly.
So, and did the county assessor's office provide you with some information on how you can get information from them? Because we don't have any control over the property value.
Well, but somebody does, and I got the letter. I was told that this is the place, this is the meeting to come to put my input in, and I think your 11.1% in property value is ridiculous. So who can influence that?
Patrick,
Yeah,
you wanna-
when the property values are determined by the county, the only thing the city council determines is how much funding they request. So if you're interested in why your property was estimated to increase in value by 11%, you really need to talk to the county. I believe it's the assessor's office, but the cities, the localities in Minnesota do not set their value, except maybe Minneapolis or St. Paul or one of those. But
So who do I
in
talk
Washington
to?
County, that's all done by the county.
So are you saying that nobody here has control over that?
Yeah,
Or your
no,
assessed
no,
value,
Where did this
correct.
letter come from?
well, that's probably from the county, if I don't miss my
Yes,
guess.
it's from the county, that's
Yeah,
correct.
so the county, again, one of the
So
reasons
I went to talk to the county over in Stillwater, and they said, you have to come to one of these meetings.
Yeah, and
So
what I
here
think,
am.
what I think the county is telling you is that if you have a concern about the increase in what the city is asking for as far as funding goes, that's what this forum's for. Again, if you have a concern about what the value of your home is reflected, and particularly the 11%, which I can understand the concern, that's determined in the county. And one of the reasons we left this chart up here is that if you relate to what the city's asking for, you know, on a $300,000 home, we're only asking for $41 a year. So that's a lot less than 11%. So I think you need to re-clarify with the county on how they assess the value of your property.
Right, so how do I do that? I was told that this is the meeting to come
If I may,
to address that.
I think you might be thinking about the Board of Appeals meeting.
I'm sorry?
There's a meeting that we have called Board of Appeals, the county, and that's where you can come to the county and speak to them about the actual value of
When
your
does that
property.
take place? I don't
That meeting, the first meeting will be April 11,
April,
2022.
but the taxes will already be taking place by then.
Because that is for property assessed values for next year.
Pardon? Yeah,
That is for assessed values for next year. Every April,
but if they go ahead and give me appropriate taxes for next year, April 11 isn't gonna do any good. It's already done.
correct.
So you're not making any sense to me.
If
What-
you,
who-
if
how
you
can
want
I
to wait
talk to
after the
somebody
meeting,
before then?
if you want to wait after the meeting, I can take your information, and then I can get you in touch with somebody from the county. So that is when they have that meeting to discuss property tax values.
Okay.
And then that's where you would come to make an appeal of what they're assessing your property.
Okay.
And if they feel a change is necessary, then that's the process that you go
Okay,
through.
so you're going to give me the name of a person to talk to?
I can, yes. If you would mind writing down your name and phone number on the sheet that's on the table, I can
Okay.
contact you and
right.
provide the contact person at the county for you.
That's all I need.
Yep.
Thank you.
One more piece of information, though, that meeting in April that is with the county is hosted here in Forest Lake.
Yes.
All right. Do we have anybody else that would wish to speak on the Truth and Taxation hearing? And Karen, is there anybody online?
Let me double check. No. There's no one.
Okay. With that, we'll close the public hearing and bring conversation for budget and levy consideration back to council. And council, before you, for your consideration this evening is Resolution 12-13-2101, which is on page 79 of your packet. And happy to either entertain a motion or any further questions you might have.
Mayor Ban, I just have one question, actually not really directly related to our decision tonight, but I'm just curious on the health of the enterprise funds. I know we you know, went through a pretty thorough review and made some adjustments a number of years ago, and I'm wondering how we're feeling about that.
The health of the water and the sewer fund are good.
Okay.
We continued a rate increase for the water fund. We know that still is, we have more to do there. The sewer fund is a little more healthier than that. That's why we decided not to do a rate increase this year. We've skipped the planned 3% rate increase. And the final real utility one is the stormwater, which we're increasing that a bit, but that's always the one that's really kind of on the edge still, so we're still working through that. We still have to work a little bit harder to get that to a place where it's pretty solid, but the other two funds are in good shape.
And then I think my second question is, thank you for the email regarding Lake Center for Youth and Families and the
Yes.
plan for that.
Yes.
I know another one that we've talked about through kind of our budget planning is the Lake Association, and is
We've been meeting with the lake associations regarding their needs and trying to get an agreement, or at least a better understanding of how that is, so we can move forward in a logical and planned pace.
Is support for them reflected in? next
Support
year?
hasn't changed this year.
Okay,
It's the same as it was prior year.
Okay, that's all I need, thank you.
Very good. Any further questions? Happy to entertain a motion if anyone is ready.
Mayor Bain, I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 12-13-21-01, a resolution approving the 2022 general fund budget and levy.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Quick comment just to say this is kind of reflects a capstone of many activities and conversations that have happened throughout the year. Happy to see us get to this point. Thrilled to see some increased funding in parks, some additional EDA support, and also fantastic to see some additional investments with our police department. So I'm happy to support tonight's work and, or tonight, the resolution tonight, and just thank everyone for their work in getting us to this point. So much appreciated. With that, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And our resolution is approved. That being the last item on our agenda for our special meeting, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And we are adjourned.